Welcome back to the PI Files, where we dig into real cases, real people, and the role of private investigators in uncovering the truth. I'm your host, Eric Peterson. I'm a licensed private investigator here in California.
Your winner by chokeout, the Joker!
Quick victory tonight for the Joker.
Today, I'm joined by someone whose journey is as tough as it is inspiring.
If you put in all your hours, training, dieting, all the sacrifices, I guarantee you I'd fall under $2 an hour. You know, when I first started fighting, I basically had to pay for my first fight. I paid $25.
Mike Joker Guymon. Mike grew up in Southern California. He went to work as a bouncer, stepped in the cage as a professional UFC fighter, but his story doesn't end there. After the fights, the health challenges, and the battles inside and outside the octagon, Mike reinvented himself. Today, he's a successful entrepreneur running his own security company, applying the lessons he learned to the ring to the business world. Mike, it's an honor to have you on the show. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. I can't believe I'm here, actually. Especially we've been friends for so many years.
Yeah, it's crazy. So
We've all
since
come a long way.
2001, I believe, and it's just nuts because a lot's happened between
Yes.
then and now. To kick it off, I want to talk about where you grew up. What was your childhood like?
Childhood, born at Hoag Hospital, Newport Beach, K through 12 in Irvine, which is, 10 minutes from there. So basically I haven't gone very far in life. And I was not a scholastically gifted kid. To tell you the truth, I failed pretty much everything. I got by on being a really amazing athlete. Didn't ever graduate high school. I got to walk. They did the ceremony and everything. I'm not proud of that, but what I am proud of is, going from not having any scholastic education, like good proper education with, the diplomas and everything, but transitioning into going from the life of a professional fighter, professional athlete, and then transitioning into the business world. And especially people in where I came from, the UFC, and you don't see a lot of guys transitioning into the business world.
Yeah. Now, you talked about you were an athlete. So what did you do in high school? How'd you get that inspiration? What kind of sports were you in?
It was mainly baseball. I wanted to go in soccer. I just didn't have the time, so I focused on baseball, which was my strongest, attribute. I ended up going into football eventually as a kicker, but I threw very hard, hit the ball a ton, and had all different types of opportunities there in the future.
Were you how did you pick that up? Because if you look at some of the kids, I mean, especially in Southern California, when you look at like modern day and some of these areas in Southern California where the parents are moving here for their kids to hopefully they get to the professional level.
Yeah.
Did you just pick it up, or were you did your dad push you to do it?
It was like my brothers were playing baseball, so I kind of followed them. And then, believe it or not, growing up in Irvine, it's so nice and sheltered and whatever. But hey, life isn't easy. My home life wasn't great. So, I had two parents not getting along, fights there. I'm the youngest of the four children. So my way was just, I wanted to be out of the house as much as possible. So I was always playing baseball, soccer, all these different things, whatever I could do to occupy my time, and activity was my blow off valve. Made me a good athlete.
So you just picked it up. It wasn't like your parents said, hey, go into this school at 5 years old. And
No, just learned it.
Now, is there any early influences in your life that prepared you for life as a fighter or as a business owner now?
Not a heck of a lot.
Yeah.
My dad, unfortunately at the time was alcoholism was a thing. He did make a change there. A very successful professor emeritus at UCI. My childhood was scattered. Getting out of high school, watching the people, being the fly on the wall, doing the security gig, I learned how to do business. I just learned from my environment.
Yeah.
I was just one of those guys.
Now, getting back to baseball a little bit, I heard a story about the Yankees, and there was a Yankees-Angels game. Can you tell me about that?
It's a trip. So I, doing well in baseball. I was Orange Coast, and then I went to, playing on the pro scout team for the Braves. I quit, walked away. I was with my girlfriend at the time. We were together for a while. I got out of my mom's house, lived there for a while, and we were living together in Orange, and 2 weeks later, after I quit and walked away from things, there's a knock on the door. My girlfriend, at the time, ex-wife, eventually answers the door, and then says, hey, honey, can you come here really quick? I go over there, and it's a scout for the Yankees that I know who's known me forever. And he's like, hey, I'm like, how did you frickin' find me here? He's like, oh man, I'm on my ways. And I'm like, all right. So he went into telling me, he goes, hey, we're in town. We're playing the Angels on a 3-game. So what do you think about coming down to Angel Stadium and throwing a bullpen for us and hanging out with everybody? And I'm like, oh man, sounds great. No way, really? And I never went. I just didn't go.
How come?
Didn't believe in myself. I just, for some reason, maybe it was a childhood thing, I didn't think I was good enough, and I was like too worried to fail, which all that changed during, obviously it all changed eventually, but yeah, that's why.
So then eventually you get into security work, like just bouncing.
Yeah, security, yeah.
So, and then how did you get into that?
So when I left baseball, I didn't have that like team camaraderie. I didn't have that connection. I didn't have a blow off. And so a lot of my friends were training jiu-jitsu and I just got sucked into it and fell in
What
love
year
with
was
it.
this?
This was like 1998. And then I started fighting in 99 was like my first like fight.
Because back then it wasn't crazy popular as it is now. So what was that environment? Because I know Orange County
It was bare knuckle.
Okay, so bare knuckle. And then, because you had some fight camps like in Orange County, Huntington Beach, you've got like Tank Abbott, you've got all those, a lot of people are from, there's a huge, just like the sports, like you're talking about.
It's like a hub.
Yeah. So where did you end up training, or what did you end up doing?
I trained with Chris Brennan. I was South County. And you're mentioning Orange County, right? So we had the North County and the South County. I was part of like the South County group. And I was one of the few that got along with everybody. It's how it always been in my life. But I was part of the Tapout crew. And we sponsored a ton of fighters. And everybody wanted to be like, get close to and be around because, hey, maybe I got sponsored by this huge clothing company. And that came from personality and whatnot. But the fighting, I was training with Chris Brennan down in Lake Forest. All these guys I was helping get, I was one of the dummies at the time. But they used me to get ready for fights. And then I just picked it up really quick because of being a good athlete.
Yeah.
I went to go support our group at a fight, our camp, our team. Somebody dropped out. And they're like, dude, you freaking. So they're like, go in there. Yeah. And I happened to have my stuff with me, jumped in there, and the rest wrote itself.
So how did that, there was no like weigh in. You just like, hey, it was like a push in.
Yeah, it's kind of like a push in.
Yeah. And so can you explain what the Tapout, because that was the clothing line and all that stuff. Can you explain a little bit of that?
Yeah, Tapout, we were like in your face. That was our like thing, Tapout in your face. We were a very aggressive company representing in one of the faces of basically what was the beginning of like the true MMA scene and what, everybody's gravitated towards the cool thing. We, sponsored fighters. I was like the only one of the 5 of us that fought professionally, so kind of gave some credibility there. And I was like I'm the Joker. I was always the crazy verbal, vocal, do the craziest of the crazies, and got us into a lot of doors and helped us get into UFC and all that stuff.
And then in terms of training, like what was popular at the time? Was it jiu-jitsu? Was it Muay Thai? Was it a mixture of everything, or? It
was the infancy. Well, not the infancy, but it was getting up there. But people kind of still had like, not one-dimensional, but two-dimensional. They were like kickboxing and wrestling. Like Tito was a kickboxing wrestling guy, But he, as the sport evolved, you have to evolve. So whether it be fighting and what business and where we're into now, our lives, you evolve. So I was more of a striker. Everybody know me for, my first half of the career is more knockouts and TKOs. The last half of my career is more submissions because my wrestling and my jiu-jitsu got better. And I was like, man, it's so safe down here on the ground. I'm not getting freaking knocked out on the feet, stuff like that.
It's crazy how it evolved. And then sometimes, you have some people thinking, oh, well, this is boring. But I'm sure you're watching these fights at such a different perspective than other people.
I feel like I'm a little bit different in my learning. Like I said earlier, like scholastically, I wasn't. I was so, always out in the world, looking out the windows and stuff like that. But I'm just one of those people that learn by seeing and being around and being that fly on the wall. And that's... So going back to the bouncer days, I mean... That's where I met you.
Yeah. So in LA, you've got, Samoans, you got all these different shapes and sizes of people.
Yeah.
Did you ever encounter situations where someone kind of underestimated you and regretted it. And I believe I've witnessed that. But did you ever, like, because you're not like 6'5",
No.
300 offensive lineman.
6 foot. I fought middleweight, welterweight, lightweight. Last fight, 39 years old, weighing in at 155. But, I was, with my communication skills and having fun with people, not being that arrogant, just because I could fight didn't mean I was better than anybody else. Yeah. I got into this role, got into security, because fighting didn't pay the bills. You got paid pennies, and you put in so much effort, so much wear and tear on your body. So I had to do something on the side. Security was the thing. So I was a bouncer, but quickly I became, not a director of security, but the head of security, right? And because I was great at dealing with the conflict resolution, being that guy. One of the situations that you're talking about, being Newport PD and in a hot spot with the nightclub scene, there was a guy, coming to the door, was a big dude, and he's like, oh yeah, I'm a 7th degree black belt, and I'll F you up, and and then I hear this, hey, Joker, we need you at the Joker front door, and I get over there really fast, and I walk up, and as soon as I got there, I already knew why I was called there, and I'm like, I could smell the alcohol on this guy, and our door guys are great. They're like, hey, if you've already been overserved, you're not coming in, because we'll get in trouble, right, with ABC. And so I said, oh, sir, hey, I know what, I'm called up here. Hey, why don't you come back another day? He's, oh, no, F you, bro. I'll F you up. I'm a 7th degree black belt. And I'm like, oh, my God, this is not going to go good. I'm like, hey, let's talk out here in the street and, let's get away from everybody. I know you're an aggressive guy. I know you're bad, And he kept pushing it, right? He kept pushing it. And there's a line. I mean, this line goes out and around. And this guy starts piping up again, and somebody in line is, they knew I fought, and they knew who I was. And they're like, man, Joker's gonna fuck you up. And I was like, looked at the guy, I'm like, hey, you might want to listen to that guy in that line, because you shouldn't be talking the way you're talking, so disrespectful, stuff like that. I'm trying to be nice to you and, give you a way out of this whole thing. I'm inviting you back to, and he goes back to it, and he goes, and I told him, I go, look, I then flip it around, and now I become like very direct, because I have this weird switch in me, and I'm like, I am going to pull every hair out of your eyebrow and throw it in your face. There's nothing you could do about it. And then it was on from there. And I ended up taking him down, got him a thing called Who's Your Daddy. Chris Brennan showed me this like the first day, and I get him in the Who's Your Daddy, and I'm like talking to him in this position where he can't hit me, can't do anything, and I'm like literally pulling it out of his head and throwing it in his face. And I said, see, you made me be this a-hole guy I don't want to be, and now look at your eyebrows are getting thrown in your face. And I said, I'm going to let you up, you're going to shut up, you're going to walk away, and never happen again. And the same thing.
Good, yeah.
So, yeah.
And then he got picked up for drunk in public.
Yeah, 647F.
Yeah. So speaking of lines at that place, I would bring people
Colombian lines?
Well, no.
Oh, you mean lines?
Oh, yeah, because you're talking about the nightclub. I'm just talking about lines of people.
Oh, yeah, lines of people,
so
not Colombian.
A block long. Everybody knows everybody. Everybody's super important. I walk up there with just dudes from Ventura County sheriffs and LAPD. And then they're like, who is this guy? Who's this idiot coming in? No, just all dudes.
Yeah.
So that was hilarious back then. What inspired you to pursue MMA and then eventually fight in the UFC? I want to hear about that journey.
You know what's crazy is when I first saw the UFC, I was like, man, because with baseball, I didn't think I was good enough, right? And I saw these guys up there, I was like, man, you have to have cojones big as frickin', won't be able to walk through the door because your nuts won't be able to fit, But I was like, I looked up to those guys, I was like, man, I wish I was able to do that. And I was just one of those athletically gifted guys, and training with everybody, and just it was just challenging myself, wanting to be that guy. And I'm not a fighter. I just love competition and pushing myself. I had the athleticism, and it took me like 10 years to get there. I originally, with Tapout crew, Ultimate Fighter started coming around. It was the second season. I got sequestered for 7 days in Vegas and did all this stuff to, prepare to be cast on that show. And everybody was like, man, you are for sure making it on here. You're way better than all these fighters. Your personality, and hey, you got the talent. And they sent us home, and they're like, hey, we'll call you back, and you have your time, a couple days, and then you fly out. You're going to be out filming The Ultimate Fighter. And they send me back, and then the day before I'm about to fly out, they call up and say, hey, I'm not going to pull any punches, but you're off the show. And I'm like, what? And it's because I was part of Tapout. They didn't want to deal with the conflict of interest and Tapout sponsoring the UFC and stuff like that. So that was kind of a downer, and I was like, oh my God, I missed my shot to make it in the UFC. And then it took me, 8 more years, and I finally made it there. And that's part of, that falls into business. You know this. It's like, and you made the transition from law enforcement into business, and I made the transition from fighting into business, and it's part of that dedication, determination, and sacrifice. Discipline is probably the best word I could, hand out to people and tell people, like, discipline's where it's at.
Yeah, persistence. I mean, because when you talked about baseball, there's, it seemed like you weren't like, hey, put in some training camp. You picked it up, you did it, you did a great job. I can only imagine that that's just on another level in terms of. So give me an example of like a day, a week, up in for those 10 years in terms of like, are you training every day?
Back then, it's different now, but back then it's like we trained like cavemen, chew glass. We fought pretty much every day. Now they have like 3 days they train or 2 days they train and like, go hard or something like that. Back then, like I said, it was nonstop. You're always got to be ready to drop a lot of weight. I would have to, like, I fought at middleweight, scratch that. I won, but I was like, dude, these guys are freaking huge. So I'm like, I had the discipline to be able to cut weight and cut out the food, lose 25 to 30 pounds every fight, weigh in at 170, come back in at 191-ish every fight, put on 20, 21 pounds in 24 hours. And then did that, and it's just discipline, and it's just grinding and grinding. Every day is a grind, and I did that for so long. And at the same time, remember what I was saying, you're not making enough, you're not making a lot of money. So you have to do something on the side. So I was always doing the security, executive protection, and then running my own gym. You're balancing all these things. What's funny is it never changes. So we transitioned from where we were at, and what I was doing, and then into the business world, and you're from law enforcement in the business world. It never changes. You're always juggling all these different issues.
Yeah, because you got to pay for the training too, right? Because there's people along the way that, their job is to.
I actually kind of was sponsored the whole way through. I paid for training for like first year, and then when the potential was there, it's like, look, hey, you just train, and you represent us. I'll take care of it.
Can you tell me about that first fight? So that first UFC fight. I mean, I know. So you were talking about bare knuckle, but and then you got like pushed into it. But how about that first UFC fight? How crazy was that?
Oh man, that was surreal. That was so crazy for me because it took me 10 years to get there. I'm like, oh, I want to get there, and I went through some major life issues to get there. And when I got the call saying, hey, you're going to be fighting this UFC X at this area, you're going to be fighting Rory McDonald. I was just like, no way, it's on. And when I got there, it's just, you're under the arena, you could hear everything. You're like, oh shoot, I'm about to walk out there and fight in front of, 18,000 people. It was intimidating.
Was that Anaheim?
No, that was, all the concussions. It was Rory McDonald, UFC Fight Night, 20, I think it was. And that was in, I want to say, Virginia, somewhere.
Okay. Somewhere out on the East Coast. Or
out there. And it was scary.
What? Who chose your intro song? Or did you get to choose an intro song?
It was, God, how did that go down? That was, about this. No?
Or I don't think so.
It was, I forgot. No, but going back to that, I watched the UFC, and you see Bruce Buffer and all that stuff, like fighting and like all that stuff. It scared me because when I was in the cage, you don't know it, but Bruce Buffer is like, he is right in front of your face, and his card is like this. I mean, it is. Yeah. They don't show how close he is to you, and he's yelling, looking, I'm fighting. And I'm like, dude, calm down. You're freaking me out over here. Yeah. And you're the one with gloves on, about ready to fight somebody. So, yeah, that was weird. And then hearing Joe Rogan behind you talking to you.
Oh, he was doing it back then? Because I remember hearing something. He would do it for free at the beginning when they were building.
Yeah, I didn't know that part, but... Yeah, he was.
But it was the earlier days.
He was doing Fear Factor and then doing all that.
And in terms of the music, there may not have been music because I think it's gotten progressive. You know, it's gotten more of a spectacle.
Yeah. Well, no, there is walkout. There's walkout songs for everybody, but I've had some pretty crazy ones.
What's been the biggest challenges and triumphs inside the octagon?
Well, just making the commitment to actually fighting the first fight. Yeah. It's insane. It takes a lot. At least for this type of person, because there's different type of individuals out there. There's the guys out there that are the cocky, like, I want to eat I want to go out and bite a cow and like chew glass, and I'm better than you. Me, it was just challenges, you know. For me, that first fight was really big.
You know what you said to me over the years is, you're like, hey, I get nervous.
Oh, yeah.
And I think people don't realize that you got all this preparation. You got all this training. You talk about 10 years. But a fight's a fight. You're still nervous. And these people, you know, everybody wants, one guy wants to kill another guy, you know, just, and or choke him out or whatever. And I think people just don't, you know, you're prepared, you're confident. And then now when I think about, you talked about that story about the baseball and the Yankees. That's so minor right now compared to walking into the octagon and facing some guy inside. Yeah. And then look at that confidence. And it, obviously, like you said, it's about that preparation and discipline.
Yeah.
But I'll never forget that, because you never know, like in life, whether it's a fight or somebody with a weapon or people getting robbed. I mean, it's a crazy
Especially
situation.
nowadays, man. It is really, it's insane.
Yeah. So
what we see, we're in the security industry.
Yeah.
What people are willing to do for so little, it's I can't comprehend it. I can't convey enough to people how you've just got to have your head on a swivel and have situational awareness, whether it be in business, personal life, or going out, stuff like that. Yeah. You've seen it.
You always got to keep thinking. And some of the cases that I've handled with some of your clients, I mean, it could have ended up in some crazy stuff. Like people trying to follow home robberies and stuff like that. And so to lighten it up a little bit, this is a question that I don't know if I've ever heard this. The Joker nickname, where did it come from?
Oh, Jesus. That was from almost day one, because I was always goofing around, always had this crazy smile. When things are at their worst or at their, like, the craziest and most serious is when all the real, you know, jokes and shenanigans come out. But it was like early on, high school and college is more like, I'd say college though, because I was a menace.
So and then it was your name for UFC,
fighting.
But like when you talk to people, you're like, hey, that's
and my tramp stamp.
Okay,
I got a sailor holding an anchor with dolphins, holding roses, and it says Joker on his arm.
Okay, because what I want to do, we'll take a picture of that we'll put it online and make sure that everybody sees that. Because
on PH,
missed that.
Porno.
Did you say OnlyFans or PH? What are you saying? Yeah. So because if you go to lunch or dinner or anywhere with this guy, be prepared that the server is going to catch some hell. But in a funny way.
Yeah, in a funny way.
Yeah.
Never mess with food service people.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah,
like,
but they'll never forget.
Waiting.
On you, and every time you come back, there's the guy.
Yeah.
But I think, you know, this type of stuff that we deal with, that you dealt with throughout your entire life, same with me, you got to have that sense of humor. And sometimes people call it like cop humor when you go to like a crazy scene and, why are cops joking around? Because that's how you deal with it.
You have to.
Yeah. So it's great. I love it. I love the fact that
It's like it's a
Yeah.
deflection, you know,
Yeah,
it deflects stuff, you know, everybody has their thing. And for what you've seen in law enforcement and in your next life here where you're at, and me and the same thing, it's like if you don't have those deflections, it'll really hurt you.
Yeah. So speaking of, you know, putting your life out there, you're featured in this thing called The Hurt Business on Netflix. What was it like to share your story on that platform? How did that process come about?
That's a great question. That's a really great question. I had a really up and down, you know, like just dealing with everything. I went through a very bad time in my life and, you know, overcoming, and this is part of that discipline and focus and, you know, sticking to goals. These trials and tribulations in the dark moments, I was hoping, and I did, I believe, and people reached out after the film and documentary. It was out on Netflix for 3 years. I got messages from all over the world, literally, of people saying, thank you for sharing that. Because, you know, if I could help someone get through a dark time and get to even like a goal in their life, oh my gosh, that's everything. That means more to me than anything, you know. That's leaving a mark. That's leaving a legacy, you know. That's what I want to do. I want to help people.
How'd that come about? Did they just know about your story and then?
Yeah, I was a popular figure because of the Tapout thing, my story. I just had such a crazy story, and a lot of people knew about it. And a big part of it was the Tapout thing because I had greater like reach to people because I was like put in different magazines and national and actually an international campaign on advertising, stuff like this. So they wanted me in there because it's just more marketing.
What do you think the public still misunderstands about fighters and the fight game? The public only sees snippets. What do you think the
sacrifice?
Yeah.
The sacrifice and the ramifications of your decisions. Life, everything gives you consequences, right? Good or bad. Right? Fighting, if you are not paying attention to what could happen to you after, which I would love to give some more insight to, because that's leaving a legacy, is, you know, I fought 14 years professionally and then had some serious head trauma, TBIs. There's CTE now, and there's stuff I deal with now that have come up because of those decisions. And it's like, man, if I would have known what the ramifications are today, I wouldn't have done a lot of stuff.
In terms of you would have done things different, or what would you have?
I wouldn't have got on Michael Jackson's bed.
Okay, yeah, that's understandable. Yeah,
a lot of head trauma.
Yeah,
all over. No, I'm asking. No, sorry.
Well, do you like getting back to? You talked about the training.
Yeah, training.
And you said you trained like caveman and you ate glass, so maybe you have some
we fought
mouth things and teeth things from the glass eating.
Yeah,
but in terms of like, how do you prevent some of that? Because you look at like the NFL and the concussion related issues and the adjustments that make over the years, and there's some people that you see the suffering, and then Junior Seau and things like that.
Oh yeah,
and so.
Committed suicide.
Yeah, and so you see like the NFL making some changes, or you think, what can be done? You see the parallels in the MMA, what can be done differently?
It's just building more awareness, taking those athletes, especially the ones that were on TV, and just telling them like, look, this is real life. This is how it works. You're going to do this here, and if you keep doing it the way we did it, this is how it looks in your second life, because you don't think about like what is like after. You're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be a professional athlete and everything's gonna be roses. My life's set. No, it's not. It's not. You have another life. You gotta still make money. You still gotta do something, and it goes on. And I'll tell you what, if this guy take for granted and are not aware of what happens, you could have a really bad end game,
Yeah. And so do you think that things can adjust in terms of strategy and training? Or
I think nowadays they're getting a little bit better about it. They're training not as hard as often. I think they're picking like maybe 1 or 2 days a week that they like go somewhat hard, which is a huge step. Because like I said, we were like 5 days a week. We were just like.
Now, how do you balance being proud of your fight career and maybe some of the risks that it brought? How are you dealing with that now?
Like the afterlife in like
after
health?
MMA, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I didn't really have any problems up until maybe a year or two ago, and then just kept getting magnified. But now there's things that have come up. It's just progressed to a point where you can't ignore it, and it's affecting your everyday life for the most part. And it's, just deal with issues where, I hate to say it, like tremors and memory loss and all these different things you would never imagine you would ever could have because you're so healthy and you're so fit. And that just happens to the old people and stuff like that. Well, it'll fast forward you really quick, even though I'm 51 as of yesterday at a birthday party, but I'm 51 and I'm dealing with some issues that I shouldn't be dealing with until I'm 70, 80, which makes business very difficult where we're at.
Yeah. You got to be juggling a lot. And then, well, speaking of that, after fighting, how did you transition into running a security company?
Oh, shoot. That was while I was fighting, had to do this side stuff. I was, head of security at these crazy nightclubs through Orange County that were the best of the best. And the rich fat cats would come up, and then I would work actually for them in their section or where they're at, making sure they're good. One of them, one day, there's a group of 3 that would come in and just spend crazy money. Like, hey, what do you do outside of here? I'm like, well, I fight. And they're like, no. Like, what do you think about coming out with us one of these nights? And, you're just hanging out with us and doing what you do. And I'm like, heck yeah, man. And that's just kind of how I fell into it, doing executive protection. And it just grew into this animal. And it was largely to do to personality, them loving that you have respect and people respect you because of you could beat people up. Like if you want to be a jerk, you could punk people for their food, their money, their wallet, whatever you want. But you handle everybody so well. Everybody has a great time around you because you're funny. You have this personality. But at the same time, you're really good at taking care of all this stuff. So that's how it started. And then getting a name in fighting, stuff like this, you started getting invited like, hey, you want to train some law enforcement? So I started training law enforcement, started training U.S. Air Marshals. That just it started building up a resume, a really cool resume of like, wow, professional fighter, fighting X amount of years, having a world title, got a world title, one of the organizations I fought for, fighting in the UFC. Like, wow, we got a UFC fighter training law enforcement, training air marshals, training this, doing that. And then doing executive protection. For one of the clients I work for, making a good 6-figure salary, having access to private jets, flying everywhere, doing all these different things. And then just being ambitious. Mm-hmm. I know you're ambitious, and that's another word I like saying is ambition. I wanted to always do better and more and have these goals. I saw security companies not doing the best job for the person I work for. I oversee their family, I oversee their travel, I oversee their finances, their assets, so to speak. And I was just like, you know what? I'm tired of interviewing these companies. I'm gonna go buy a company. I'm gonna go make a company, and that's what I did. Bought a company to give them better service, and that's how I got into the security industry. Pretty crazy.
Yeah. Is Pablo Escobar and El Chapo as nice as everybody says they are?
Oh, they're amazing.
And then so essentially you're protecting them at night, and then the next morning you're training law enforcement.
Yeah. It was weird to go to law enforcement with a kilo of cocaine and just say, hey, guys, disregard the powdered donuts over here, because these are real powdered donuts.
This is for the canine search training portion.
Yes.
If you could go back, what would you tell your younger self before stepping into the cage?
Oh, man, we already hit on it.
We did hit a lot.
It's, what would I tell my younger self? Be smart about how you train. Watch out about how many major head traumas you have, and know when to say no more.
What lessons from fighting do you want to pass on to your employees, clients, or even young athletes?
How important, if you're going into our field, for whether it's law enforcement or in the executive protection, personal security, owning a security company, is like today. if you had good training, just jiu-jitsu alone, right? Because a lot of things end up body on body. If you see a lot of the different interactions with law enforcement and these George Floyd incidents, stuff like that, where if you had this type of jiu-jitsu training, even up to just a blue belt, a lot of stuff would be handled without deadly force and all these crazy lawsuits and needless deaths.
What's next for you personally and professionally?
Growing my company. I want to grow it. Right now it was MX2 Global Protection. Working in the industry I did for the industry with armed security and whatnot and doing executive protection kind of gave me the booster rocket of where I am now today. And I'm going to be moving into a new company that I made that's going to be it's going to be the standard of security through the nation for churches and schools.
Love it.
Churches and schools, they should have a much higher level of security and training. Those are our most valuable places, schools and churches. You know, the malls, the simple businesses, stuff like that, having a BSIS license, you know, armed security license, the training to have that, hey, you got some training, great, but you're going to have that type of training and you're going to guard our most precious things, the places where places of worship in schools, no thank you. I want a much higher level.
Yeah, I think people are seeing that more and more each day, and there needs to be a standard because for so long, there's no standard, and it's just the Wild West, and it's just I love the fact that you're doing that,
and it's not uniform. Uniform. It needs to be uniform across the nation.
Yeah.
All training, whether it be for law enforcement, because every law enforcement agency, even within the same state, is different. It needs to be uniform, and it has to be at a higher level. You have a gun on you. You're constantly interacting with all different economic classes, just everybody, every different situation. It has to be a higher level of standard.
Yeah, I don't know why there isn't. There should be a national standard in law enforcement, national standard in security, period.
Yeah.
Because we're experiencing so much that...
Yeah. Most definitely.
All that education needs to be shared. That training needs to be shared. You know, it's counterproductive. Yeah. So I got a little lightning round.
Oh, bring it. Let's do it.
Favorite fight you ever had, win or lose?
Del Taco in 2010.
At 2 a.m.
Yeah, I wanted a burrito, and it was on like Donkey Kong. No, shoot, man. That's a tough question. In the cage fights and all this stuff, there was one for my title that I never thought I'd get a world title in anything, be the best. That one, that was in King of the Cage. There was my first win in the UFC. Like, they were just all emotional fights. Cried my eyes out. That's another thing. I don't have an ego. Zero ego. I'm a man. I cry. I have emotion. Oh my God. But come try and have an issue with me on the street. I will mess you up in every which way. So one would be my title fight. I hate to say, and I have to say my first win in the UFC. Those were like the ultimate.
Who was your toughest opponent inside the cage?
There was a bunch. Fudge. That's hard. Roy McDonald in the UFC. That kid was tough. Beat me. Armbarred me. My title fight. I had Casey Uscola. He was a freaking 2 weight classes above me. Got rammed in my face to fight me because all the fighters backed out and they didn't have anybody, and I sold all these tickets. There's so many fighters. I don't even know how to answer that one.
How about the best lesson you've learned from bouncing?
Never underestimate anybody.
Yeah.
I don't care how big someone is, how small someone is. You never underestimate anybody.
So obviously you're still a fan of UFC. Who's the best fight? Who's your opinion? What's your opinion? Who's the best fighter of all time, in your opinion?
Oh, man. Jeez, that's the toughest question. George St. Pierre, Anderson Silva, but then you have these Russians that are up here, and you got the Khabibs, you got all those Dagestanians. Anybody with a beard, don't fight them.
Yeah.
Don't ever fight a person. But yeah, it's so hard to answer that.
How about most underrated fighter?
I think Khabib, because he's so small.
Yeah.
Underrated. God, it's another one. It's just difficult. There's so many guys out there that are coming up.
If you weren't a fighter or a business owner, what do you think you'd be doing today?
Oh, Jesus. That's a freaking amazing question, man. If I wasn't a fighter, business owner, I can't, I don't know what that would be.
Yeah.
Because all I know is adversity and challenges. Just sitting back and being a 9-to-5er, you know, the employees that work for me, and I hate calling employees because it's this ego thing. Because I own the company doesn't make me better than you, in my opinion. It's like I call everybody coworkers, right? And they look at me and like, oh man, I want to be that guy. He's here, there. I'm like, dude, I want to be you. I got less responsibility. You actually have a set hours you work.
Yeah.
I don't. You don't. We're always working. Phones are always going off. What would I be doing? I don't know. It wouldn't be
Stand-up comedian.
You know, that could be it.
Yeah.
I do some crazy stuff. And I'm trying to keep it as PG as possible. I'm not cussing.
Yeah.
You know, I'm staying away from sex jokes. This microphone's really messing with me because there's things you could do with it. You know, all different things.
One word your friends would used to describe you.
Huge testicles.
Okay, all right.
No, that's 2 words. It wouldn't be just testicles are huge. It would be, no, friends, no, serious, crazy. I hate to say it, but crazy.
What's the best advice you'd give someone about handling themselves in a tough situation, in the cage or in life?
Step back, use perspectives, be smart.
I love it. Well, Mike Joker Guymon's story is a powerful reminder that no matter how many times life knocks you down, it's about how you get back up, adapt, and fight forward. From the MMA world to building a successful security business, his journey shows what resilience, discipline, and persistence can create. Mike, thank you for joining me and sharing your story. For our listeners, if you enjoyed this episode, please make sure you subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. You can connect with Mike and learn more about his security company on the below links that are going to be in the notes. This has been the PI Files. I'm Eric Peterson. Stay safe, stay aware, and always follow the facts.